through the Elise that Peanut can play incredibly well, something that has to be considered. You know, if Pays wants to play the Zeri, you know, he can ban away your counter champions as T1, so does deserve a look. And you can see already the Lucian is taken off the board. Annie has to be banned no matter what, so you really only have a little bit of wiggle room here on red side. They take away the Caitlyn, unsurprisingly, and there's the Zeri ban.
Any Jace banners? Chovy?
I think right now they've shown the Zeri ban. It's pretty reasonable.
Well, I mean, they could certainly play it themselves, but maybe they just say, okay, we've got an answer. Maybe we first rotation. Oh, okay, they're just going to play it themselves. That's the other answer.
Yeah,
other than having a pick.
I thought perhaps we were going to see, as we're just swapping sides here entirely, I thought perhaps we were going to see something like a Malphite picked up early. I think that's what you were potentially about to say.
Yeah.
In that early rotation, so it doesn't get banned away in second ban phase. But Sejuani going to be locked up here with the Aphelios, and you don't have the ability to take the Thresh away unless you're going to try to go Jinx Thresh here, which we could see, and we have seen in a lot of Jinx Aphelios metas, but it looks like instead they're going to put Delight on his best champion here and go Xayah Rakan. Can be very risky against an Aphelios Thresh lane.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, especially if T1 are able to draft some more range into it. It's not going to be easy, especially they don't have the Jace themselves. But yeah, as you mentioned, I think the biggest thing is that Delight gets onto Rakan. Like, Pays, sure, he can play Xayah. Xayah, pretty nice pick nowadays in this meta. But Delight with his hands on Rakan is going to be nice. Now, Keria could just play the Thresh, or...
I mean, there are other picks. I mean, they could play, you know, they could try to play Tom Ketch. I really don't like it here. But I think the Thresh is a pretty strong given. Right?
Yeah.
We'll be locked in here. Now, what's interesting about the Sejuani pick right now, too, is that it could potentially be flexed to the top side of the map into the Jace. And we have seen Sejuani with Ignite and Viego setups do very well into the Jace in the early game. There are other picks you could pick with this too to look for some Jace punish here, as I think the Malphite will once again be banned. Even though it's not as strong into the Xayah, it's just so strong right now in this meta in general.
We saw it in Challengers recently, Wolf, a Malphite with over 1,000 armor in a game. Just totally take it over. That was Challengers, but Malphite's still very strong. As there's the Viego you were talking about.
So that's no longer an option. So that's a pretty wise ban here from Gen G, just removing all sort of uncertainty. It's much tougher to actually play Sejuani top without the Viego pick for setup. See what T1 want to do with this. They take it away the Vi from Peanut once again. 2 for 2 on that. Wukong thinning out the pool quite significantly. Now, Elise is still open, but it is not the type of draft where you want to be playing the Elise necessarily.
Yeah.
Very strong into the Sejuani in isolation, but not into the Aphelios Thresh lane with the Xayah Rakan.
Maybe Peanut just hops back onto the Poppy or something like that, as Gragas once again going to be respect bans here. It's pretty strong nowadays just in general, so I think it's a good ban.
Faker could himself play the LeBlanc that we saw Chovy play on red side in game 1. And is very strong into Jace. If you can get into the backline, very strong into Rakan. Can be very difficult to, you know, clear vision when you're playing the support into Thresh, into a LeBlanc. He just wants to play Lissandra again. And this also is kind of like a soft ban on Chovy playing LeBlanc again or playing the Ahri. It's an unknown jungle pick.
I think that's the idea. Doesn't want to just, you know, face up, pick the Ahri or the LeBlanc with the Lissandra open. And they knows how dangerous Chovy is as a player, so maybe just wants to neutralize him. And
they want to see what the other, you know, mid is going to be here for Chovy before they make any decisions about, do we want to play Malphite, for example. As Maokai comes through, and you have the potential Rumble angle here. It could happen. Like it's not out of the.
We did see that in Challengers.
But I think this is going to be something a little bit more standard. I say that. Looks like it's going to be AP Maokai, and they are just going to play the Malphite here.
There it is, locked in.
And it's on the side of Gen G into the Aphelios. Now, you need a pick here that could do a decent amount of damage, but is also going to be safe into both Jace and Malphite. Like, that's a tough ask. It's a really tough ask for Zeus.
GP.
That's the damage covered. In terms of safety, not so much.
Gnar
much safer. And it's going to suit the composition in terms of all the setup they have. They have Thresh, Lissandra. It sets up an easy game for Gumayusi to carry on the Aphelios with the front line they've been given. And obviously Gnar could do very well into Malphite. But is it going to be Malphite mid here with the Jace coming through? That could give Doran some agency. I just don't think that's the laning setup that you ever really want.
Yeah.
So I think the Gnar feels pretty decent into Malphite. You've got Lissandra into Jace, a matchup we've seen before. It's not extremely Jace favored, can have some control early. And T1 kind of have comfort across the board. It's Oner's Sejuani, Faker's Lissandra, Aphelios, Thresh for Keria. You know, it's one of those comps where you look at, you could just almost put like tape over the left side of your screen. You don't even care what the other team has put together here because this is like the best T1 draft. And I think that getting angles here for Gen.D is going to be all about the engage.
Yeah, I will say that in that recent game, the one game with the 1,000 armor Malphites, he was playing against an Aphelios, and he was unkillable. And it was Castle on the side of KT. He basically just essentially used his ultimate over and over and over onto Aphelios. And if the Aphelios did not have Flash, it was so hard to play the game, okay? Because not only is there Malphite, there's Rakan. There is so much follow-up. Even Maokai can set up some of these angles as well. And also you have the Jace for range against the Aphelios before you even engage against him. So I feel like they have a lot of angles to deal with Guma's Aphelios in this game.
But the Thresh here is going to be so critical because it can keep Guma safe. You have the box for counter engage. When they try to go in with this composition, there is no going out, right? And that is the scary part about how this is going to work here for T1. Positioning is going to be everything. Execution is everything, Valdez.
Absolutely. Here we go again. Game number 2, Gen.G versus T1. So we've gone to the rift for game number 2. We got both support players playing their best champions, which is very cool to see. Keria has a lot of best champions, but I think Thresh kind of stands above them all.
Yeah, it is most iconic. And you could talk about some champions he's played this season that have been more relevant, but this has definitely been, like I would say personally, I think his best performing champion this season has been Lux, weirdly enough, but his Lux has been insane. And he hasn't played as many games at Thresh, but he's also looked amazing on most of those games.
I feel like his Thresh has a lot of highlight moments, you know? Like he does the TikTok plays, right? Like he's got like the lantern from downtown setting up like multiple hooks in a row, stuff like that.
And it's just across his career, the pick he's been associated with the most. Even being featured in an opening with it, as Faker should be fine here. We'll lose the ward, unfortunately. So good coverage here of that standard Lissandra ward. You see, and I mean, I look at this draft here for Gen.G and I think, oh, it certainly could work. You know, it absolutely could. We felt the same way about the last draft, and it was the early game where things got out of control. This time it's going to have to be a lot better here for Pays and Delight. And see the cut down coming through here on this Xayah. Which you'd love to see.
Aphelios.
Yeah, true. Very important.
Yeah.
And in that game you were talking about with Castle, it was a Mountain Soul, and he picked up a ton of Mountain Drakes. I believe even for that game, I want to say, which was crazy. So, yes. Yeah, we're not going to be talking about that much armor this time around, as Chovy hits level 2, and is going to do a lot of damage with that early combo here on the Lissandra. We talked about how you get a little bit of early prio, but this is quite an edge.
Yeah, the win rates of the champions here, pretty huge. The Gnar for Zeus, his debut champion, and also his best champion, you could say. I mean, maybe the Jace at this point, you could also say. The Gnar also very iconic for what he's been able to do, as there is hook number 1.
Play avoided.
Play, yeah.
Could have been a little bit more damage there. But yeah, I mean, Zeus has been put on this champ so many times in playoffs here where T1's just decided, like, this is your comp, this is our comp, we want to have better team fighting, and we're going to have some additional damage with you, and you're just never going to die in this in any matchup. They've even put him on this blind, and in fact often blind, on blue side. This time he's playing it into, again, the assumption was going to be the Malphite. He's trying to play Malphite mid. especially into Wilsandra, sounds miserable, and it's just basically unplayable. As Chovy going to show a lot of respect here.
Oh, flash on in there, going for this one as Chovy responds flash. He gets out. They didn't have a lot of vision on the other side of the mid lane, so I was kind of thinking they weren't going to go for the play just in case Peanut was there, but they end up trading flashes.
Peanut's just farming. Did go for the green pet, actually, and not red, which is usually a pretty surefire indicator that it is not going to be the AP variant of Maokai here. And they're not in a good place in terms of their AP damage in this composition, so we'll need to snowball things pretty aggressively. Peanut going to try to let them push this wave and then come through the bottom brush. There's no ward.
This is scanned out as well. If Keria sees that scan, he might get a little bit suspicious, but I don't believe he has. As Keria getting himself in a very precarious spot. If he rotates back over.
I just don't want to commit. They don't have feathers in place at this point, so they could have maybe tried to land some. Peanut could flash in, but the response flash would pull him into turret, so very difficult. Here he goes.
There it is, flash on in. Keria in a lot of trouble here. Gets the hook down, flashes away himself, dodges the knock-up, and now Oner is here as Delight is in a rough spot himself. Grabbing him comes in onto Paze as the follow-up is here from T1. They're not fully committing to it just yet as Oner trying to get the angle onto Delight as the flashaway comes in from him, but there it is with the follow-up hook as Keria is back into the play and gives first blood to Gumayusi.
This is disastrous. I mean, this is a cold start to Felios. He is going to have a ton of money, and Faker is roaming. Delight here, no flash, but he should be able to walk it out. Has that shield. But this is going to be plate gold going over to an Aphelios, who picks up first blood. And this is disastrous.
Chovy's trying to rotate down here. They have some vision. I feel like he should have just picked up a plate of his own. He is Jace after all. Faker's still here, and Peanut is as well. So now they're just gonna, no, sorry. We are out. But a fantastic start for T1 down here on the bottom side. Could not have gone better in their response to that play.
Yeah, Chovy is going to stick around here in the mid lane, try to push that plate down, and he probably will get it, but could have gotten more here considering how long Faker stayed. He's actually just not even going to risk it. And he's going to walk away from this. So, man, the news just isn't good if you're a Gen G fan right now. As Peanut does flash for this engage here as he sees Keria going through the brush, knows he has the angle, ward goes down. And Keria's hook is instant. Then the flash comes through, then the dodge on Delight's knockup. And that's the end of the fight. Oner's here. And Keria, he's like got his lantern set up here to make sure they can follow up. It's just so easy. And then Guma obviously set up with the right guns here. Flash has to be used. The root still comes down onto Peanut. The hook is perfect to make sure they get first blood here. And then Faker comes down, and Chovy is not able to deny him. So,
Oner again looking for the play, wants to force out that ult as level 6 has been hit here by Doran. He's just trying to get closer. A stun comes in. And Malphite's very safe laner.
Yeah.
Just doing his thing. He has fallen behind Zeus by a significant amount of CS already, though.
He certainly has, and this is Zeus' spacing and the ability to just use hyperprocs to chip through the early game of this Malphite in terms of health.
Speaking of which, Zeus going to miss his boomerang on the backswing there, but they have control of the river, so he can kind of stand his ground. Peanut just backing.
Zeus knows he doesn't have ult, so he's like, well, I'm just going to be annoying, and as long as I'm not in your bombies, you have a Doran's Ring worth of damage with your Qs, and I'll just outspace you. Gonna force it back. Yura has no teleport as well, so Zeus sitting in a great spot right now. This bottom lane is already a disaster. Nooncliver's up early, and he's halfway to his Greaves. His Cull is, 10 ahead.
And the Mountain Drake is so incredibly important for either team. You want to deny it away from Gen G because obviously they have a couple of strong tanks up on the top side, but T1 would love to have it for themselves, negate some of the potential lethality damage that comes out from Chovy. Or even Paze early on in the game before he does get LDR. It can be a difference maker. The Mountain Drake singularly is still very strong.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I mean, everything about Gen G's win condition is killing the Aphelios, and whether that's with that lethality Jace, with the Malphite engage, oh boy.
Oh, here we go again. As Flaze comes in, the light goes in and out, and actually it's a good trade for Gen G.
Yeah, Paze actually sets up the damage there really nicely. Guma didn't have level 6 just yet, was trying to push for it. Didn't put the damage into Delight in that short interim while he was locked down. Delight handles it very well. And this doesn't end up being too significant, but like you say, a trade up here for Genji. Keria will take the back.
Yeah, they got the Ignite out of Keria as well. As just felt like Guma was not able to put in any damage on that one, as Peanut is going for the Rift Heralds.
Yeah, this time they're not going to get double objectived early on in the game like we saw last time. A little bit more prio here on the top side of the map in mid. And Chovy is going to come over here and help out. So they will be able to get this early objective. We'll see where they place it because it's not quite the same situation as last game where you want to get that early mid turret for Lil Blanc, but it's still very useful for the Jace in this case for that poke damage. And I expect, given the control he has over that lane right now, it's the easiest place to drop it. And getting the lethality up with the Cull coming through here too is going to hit a bigger spike than any other champion can get. The Xayah is way far away from getting, you know, a huge spike out of plate gold that you would get from the Herald. So mid lane is where the focus is going to be when that drop comes down. You can see Oner's already trying to suss this out.
Doran has some alone time with the turret. Looks like he'll be able to pick this one up. Does not have any resolve in his runes, so does not have demolish, but still able to get a nice little plate. Going to be nice to try to catch up to Zeus there in terms of gold. Yeah. Now, you know, tank Malphite, not necessarily a guy who needs a ton of gold, but, you know, the more the better. The more you can tank up against Guma's damage, against even Faker's burst damage in the mid game. It's going to be nice. It's
significant for sure. Now, Hearthbound Axe, by the way, picked up here for Zeus, an item that we don't really talk about in terms of it being a component all too much, but it is going to give you additional move speed when you auto, which is going to be great for Gnar in a matchup like this where he's trying to outspace the Malphite and get hyper procs off and chase him down. So some additional movement speed here with the Merc Threads he's already picked up means he could start putting on some additional pressure here in this lane to further what's already a 15 CS lead. Bommy's, you know, not going to be as great in terms of the matchup on the other side. See what Doran gets when he backs, but expect the build will be pretty much the same.
He basically just throws Qs into Zeus, who has Merc Treads, so doesn't really do much. Just trying to farm it out as much as he can. We do have a little bit of a slowdown in this game. Chovy is doing Chovy things in terms of CS. He has spent a lot more time in the mid lane compared to Faker, as Faker did go for that big roam down to the bottom side of the map. You guys remember? That is why he is currently in the lead in terms of CS. But Guma certainly keeping up with him with his lead down on the bottom side.
Yeah, no doubt. Chovy just trying to get any damage done he can.
Okay, that's a flash out of Zeus. That's going to be very nice. Doran just picks that one up essentially for free.
Yeah, just doesn't want to deal with that extra damage from the bombies when he gets on top of him like that, and that's huge. I think if he is able to avoid that, maybe he actually can feel great. He's still pushing it back on the top side, by the way. And he's like, yeah, I flashed, but like, you now don't have ult, and so now you're going to be pushed back here. Doran has teleport, though, so this is still a good trade if he can get back to lane quickly.
Meanwhile, bottom lane, 3 turret plates go to the side of Genji. Peanut does pick up some of that gold, as does Delight.
And Doran, when he ulted there top side, he had no mana after the ult. Like, he basically was, I'm ulting only, that's it. And I think Zeus, if he handles this a little bit more quickly, he probably gets a kill here on the top side of the map. Instead, Doran is just going to be able to manage this decently. Does have the Doran's Ring, which is what he's built twice now in a row, his namesake here. And will be able to build up just enough mana to hold this wave. And this counter engage here from T1, not going to lead to anything.
As now, Peanut goes over the wall. He does have flash and a teleport to the bottom lane from Malphite. So a little bit of a lane swap here, as they don't foresee themselves getting too many plates or maybe even first turret blood on the bottom side of the map. So they're just going to send their bottom lane top.
Yeah, so all those plates picked up bottom side were huge, and then they were pushed out of lane, and they just didn't want to give any of those additional minions. But the vision control here is insane for T1 on the bottom side of the map. Chovy has no idea.
So they're just going to give away Infernal Drake. Not sure about that. Chovy might just be dead too. He has flash, but there's 4 people here, as he had no idea this was coming. And you never know when Lissandra's just going to claw forward and set up a kill. It's what she does best.
And there's so much vision here for T1. They know nobody's in the vicinity. They know nobody's around. And they could just group up for this. Now, Doran's going to get a bunch of plate gold here. But as you mentioned, this is not that significant. It's Malphite getting plate money. And he did go for Sunfire here. He's just building tanky just like he did in the previous game. But, you know, your all-in potential on a Gnar is very little and aside. And the money that they're able to pick up killing this Jace and pushing him out of lane is way more significant. Plus, of course, that Drake. Now, top side here, FaZe is picking up some gold, but it's not going to be as significant, I think, as getting a 2-Drake lead here for T1. We'll see what Soul is. Okay, it's Chemtech again. That feels less bad for Gen.G now.
Yeah, that's how we know Ox is watching from home. He keeps summoning these Chemtech souls as...
It could be worse. You know, if this was Hextech here, you'd be like, this is pretty terrible for Gen.G, considering, yeah, you got some plates topside, but one of those plates, of course, on a Malphite.
Yeah, I just feel bad for T1. They're snowballing these early games so well, and then they're just given Chemtech souls over and over again. But, of course, the trade here is that FaZe is going to pick up a bunch of turret plates in the top side. Looks like 3, or it's in total 2 for FaZe and Delight, because, of course, Doran got the first one up on the top side, so it's a decent amount of money, but even a singular Infernal Drake. Like, we just talked about the Mountain. It's going to be really nice. You've got Anar on your team. Even Sejuani, like, does decent burst alongside of the Engage.
So look at where the gold is here. Zaya's got 525, 350 for Doran, 350 for Chovy. So it's not insignificant money here. You know, when you looked at it before, it's like, oh, they're getting a little here, they're getting a little there. It felt like Doran was getting a lot, and you're like, oh, it's not that great. But when you look at the money that's picked up here, it is quite significant, considering that they haven't been able to win any fights, right? They're 0-2 this game and have a gold lead. Just taking that lead and utilizing it, that's going to be tough. As Chovy's about to be able to buy that first lethality item here, does have his call coming online here in just a moment. Just needs one more minion wave after the one up there. It's down to like 14 stacks. So we're going to look to group for Rift Herald here.
Yeah.
Faker's coming up, TP.
You know, in the past we used to fight for a first Rift Herald, which made sense, but nowadays all our LCK teams just love to fight over the second Rift Herald. As everybody's grouping up for this one. Trying to get control of this to potentially take out that mid-tier 1.
Chovy's backing. He does not have teleport, so they are down a member here. Competing for this seems unrealistic.
Might have some time. T1 not really starting up this objective just yet.
Nor that they see Chovy backing, so they don't know that he's not here. And now he has Eclipse. Like, I thought he wasn't going to be able to finish it without the cull completing, but he does back for it. Now he's back here with full health and is going to be able to come over and start putting some of that poke damage through. This is a huge opportunity now for Gen.G if he can hit that consistently going to this fight and soften up the back line. Doran also with Flash and Ultimate available here.
Yeah. As Faker looking to force him into that one, but Ignite comes in and he actually just elects to flash. He wants to hold his ult for the fight.
I actually think it's the right choice here, but you better make a high impact with your ult in this fight or you're going to feel really bad about this one.
Yeah, on the Engage, it has a lot more value, does the ult. The Flash as well, if you got both, of course, but now you see that T1 struggling to get in here, even the Saplings doing a little bit of chip damage, as now they will, in fact, get in. Guma is going to lantern away.
Chovy is in such a safe spot with his poke.
Okay, in they go. Faker looking for the Engage. See, Moonlight Vigil comes in. Tons of damage on the Peanut, but they can't take anyone out. Oner trades for the junglers, but that's 2 kills now into the hands of Gumayusi. As everybody on the side of Gen.G is looking to get away, the stopwatch value is massive for Faker here. As flash forward, and he's actually going to miss the hook, but he does force the Feather Storm. As objective picked up for Gen.G, Zeus looking to make it interesting in the mid lane, wants to force a flash. Not even going to be able to do that.
Yeah. So the eye is picked up here, and, you know, if an ultimate is forced here for FaZe, Delight is taken out. But T1 getting this topside turret here, which is what, you know, basically you would have gotten from second Herald anyway, so it doesn't feel too bad here. But you can already just see that T1 know exactly what they want to do in these fights and how well they were able to control this and get Guma into position to pop off. Because, yeah, Doran has ultimate here, and the Engage is strong, but look at the flank angle here from Zeus. And Faker, he has his ult, and he also has stopwatch. So he's never really in any danger. And look at Guma at full health. Chovy's trying to set up for the flank. He already used his accelerated shock blast before the Engage came through, so his damage is mitigated. He can't do anything. This is just 100% a one fight for T1.
Yeah.
Didn't have to use the ultimate here as FaZe, but just trying to be safe there at the last possible second.
And now Guma is 3-0 with both summoners still available. So if they want to fight over any objective, if they want to do anything right now, they can. The world should be their oyster. Now Doran, Gen.G very stubborn about taking down all of these outer turrets. Not quite going to be able to get this one. But yeah, if the Malphite dies before he's really able to ult, and the Rakan gets in alone, and then Guma just kills him, Not necessarily the engage or coordination you're looking for if you want to pilot Gen.G's composition.
Because T1 knew that because Doran is trying to stay up topside there and come in, if we can actually push him out and force him to ult, we win this.
Okay, well, Doran's going to get the turret. He has a teleport coming in for some help. Zeus in a little bit of trouble here. Does have flash. Will he elect to use it? The answer is no. Just going to give the kill over to Chovy as his team is down here on the bottom side taking the Dragon.
Yeah, so you get a teleport, but that's turret and a kill going over. And this is pretty massive going into this Dragon. And it's a Dragon that is significant in that it's soul point, but it is still Chemtech Soul, so it doesn't matter as much here, and they're going to use this teleport to try to force down an inner now. And, like, T1 are grouped on Drake bottom, and they know it, so they might even be able to turn this into a 5v5 skirmish, or rather a, like, 3v2 skirmish, because Peanut's nearby. And there's
mid.
Yeah, Herald's mid. They're going to get this turret, so they're just picking up all the money on the map, and Gen.G, a team that's so known for maximizing gold value across the map, usually in terms of CS and picking up gold for their carries while side laning. But now in this game, taking out all the turrets, as you mentioned, 3 turrets here early, and they had Peanut in position if T1 were going to try to commit to coming over here and stopping this. Zeus has no teleport, and he commits with his Mega Gnar here to try to get the kill. First TP is committed. And then you end up losing your Gnar here, so turret and Gnar going over for a Drake on the bottom side that Gen.G just frankly don't care that much about.
Yeah, singular Hex Tech, I mean, you got some shields that are going to be happening here, probably BT eventually for Guma, stuff like that, but yeah, pretty unconsequential in this one. But either way, we're going to slow things down because of this. Thank you to Ox once again for summoning this Chemtech Soul. And denying us the action. We did have a lot of action in Game 1, though, even with the Chemtech Soul. Feels like both of the teams were getting that nervous energy out.
Doran has no flash and ult available here, but he does not have TP, and T1 know this. And Zeus has TP, so they can actually look for picks onto Chovy while starting Baron. Like, this is the T1 way, where you're, like, tracking summoners extremely well, knowing the enemy Malphite's on the wrong side of the map. Now you can force them to back, because you know that Gen.G don't have really good setup vision around the Baron, so he has to kind of rotate towards mid and be like, are they taking it? Which gives more agency to the Gnar, who could then take a turret out later. He can teleport in at any time with his Gnar bar if he manages it well here. So Gen.G have to group so aggressively. And Faker's on the flank. T1 have set up for this so extremely well, but Gen.G don't panic. They don't mess this up. Doran goes straight back down to bottom once they realize, okay, they're not properly set up for it. But when he shows, T1, once again, like, this is the dance you have to walk.
It's on vision, so Gen.G will be forced to respond to this. And T1 say, no, thank you. We would not like to fight just yet. We will fight on our terms, as flash in from Keria trying to set up another TikTok play. Not going to happen.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He does have Hex Flash, but still significant to lose that.
This is getting more and more annoying here as more items are getting built for Zeus. You know, Doran can throw in a Q, but will lose out in the extended trades.
Yeah, he can only kill him if he ults. And even if he does ult, he might not get the kill. It's going to be close. And you're happy to trade Flash for the ult of Doran, actually, before huge objectives like this as Zeus. As we saw last time, Doran was more willing to Flash than ult when he was caught by Faker there, because that's so important. His ultimate being on cooldown means that T1 know they could just take the Drake, or rather the Baron, excuse me, the Drake later on. That might be another similar scenario. We haven't really talked about it as much because it is, again, a sad soul that we don't really fight for that much here in the LCK, especially if it's going to cost you your game. In Gen.G's case, like,
yeah,
not going to force it, going to try to get other stuff on the map, which they've done a great job of doing. And I think Gen.G have shown some really great macro. The lane swap timing was really nice for them. They got a lot of money onto Pays there on the top side of the map. Got Doran bottom. Got all these turrets early. They've maintained this gold lead, and they got lucky with the soul, so they can continue to play like this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this might just come down to execution in mid to late game team fights. Pays, you mentioned he's got a nice amount of gold. He did pick up the crit cloak on top of the Navori's already, so looking for that as Peanut will get hooked, but Keria is actually taking more damage from the Jace. And a little sapling. The sapling's really just an annoyance for vision and for slowing down the team, especially if they are in the bushes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's Malphite who does obviously some magic damage in this game, but it's not a real AP threat. but there's not a whole lot of armor built across the roster here of T1. Like, the damage profile issue is so irrelevant here because you're looking at no armor versus this lethality Jace, big damage on this Xayah that's only going to get bigger, and an insanely big frontline threat that so far they don't have a lot to deal with that. As the LDR comes online here for Guma, that will change, but it's looking like T1 need to actually kind of pull the wool over the eyes of Genji and out-rotate them or get a Malphite ult in the side to win team fights straight up 5v5, and they haven't been able to do it. They did once, where they were able to force Doran away, but otherwise here, Genji have just handled the macro so incredibly well, and now Doran has TP. Is T1 are going to wrap all the way around?
I guess they want this turret. I mean, gonna come in here as a 5. They're gonna force TP actually from Doran.
So that's huge. They pulled him out of a side. To light here, though, with the rest of the team faster on the Baron. They have the choke point controlled, and Malphite on a flank is actually quite scary. Needs to be respected.
Yeah. So they did that. They got the teleport out of Doran, but they lost entire river control. Did T1 is. Now the engage comes in onto the Sejuani. Oner just going to flash over the wall. So not really in too much danger this time.
Yeah. And Genji need to be willing to start this Baron, otherwise T1 just don't care about their Baron prio right now. Because the engage here for T1 is amazing. They have a 2-item Aphelios.
Keria doesn't have flash. Speaking of which, there's the engage. The Malphite and the recombinant cannot kill Guma. Where is the follow-up? There is nothing onto him. He is quite low as here comes the Maokai ultimate as
very late.
Chase is on. Should be able to get Oner. Everybody else just in the choke as in goes Faker. He's got an ult in that backside, or looking for it at least, as now the Xayah is popping off. Pays is able to frontline, picks up the kill, 2 kills for him. As a very messy engage, and Genji will take the fight.
Yeah, there's just too many threats.
Zeus now not in any luck either. He does have Mega Gnar, but he is just flashing away as the zoom in will not do him any favors. And now Genji gonna make a play for this Baron.
So 3 kills going over to Genji here. Now they're 3,000 gold in the lead. And Chovy is going to commit a teleport here just to make sure they can burst this down. They don't want to play any games with this one. The Baron is going to go over. That's going to be further gold in the lead than I just mentioned. You see going up to now almost 5,000. And T1 can go over here and maybe take the soul. But even this is not that safe right now. They have a lot of damage here, but no smite for the secure until Oner shows up. Doran's going to see this. He's going to scry it. He's going to see where Sejuani is, and that's going to force a teleport. I think Genji are like, cool, I'm going to look at this as an Elder Spawner. Thank you very much for spawning that for me. A more relevant objective we can now fight for it. We're going to have Baron buff to get map control before this. And there are just so many threats for this Aphelios. The positioning for Guma.
Zeus, what is going on here? He's so far down the lane, and it's a Malphite holding ultimate in his face. As he does have Mega Gnar, and in fact, the rest of the team is getting over here. He will push them away. And a Lantern should get him to safety, but certainly not a very comfortable situation.
Certainly a lot riskier than it should have been, even though ultimately it does end up working out okay for him. Could have been worse, so now they're just going to group up here to take out this inner and then push for the inhibitor. Now Faker is mid with no teleport, but he's getting his own push off at the same time. Zonius is coming back online, and he's going to come back here, but him being gone really just gives Genji a lot more space now. And it's an inhibitor, at the very least, that they're going to take.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to continue pushing.
They're going to force Faker to come back one way or another.
Yeah, and that's definitely what they want. Hook is going to miss, as now T1 looking for the follow-up engage, but the damage on Oner's there. Play onto Pace, though, as Boomerang hits him as well. He's got to be careful, as Zeus has got beat up against the wall. And the engage not quite there for T1. As another scary one comes through, and Genji with hands recall will just get away.
I think actually that was really well played from T1, leaving Faker in mid, so he gets all that additional money, and he's threatening an inner turret, so he almost gets the whole thing. And then when they try to push through, like, they were going to get the inhibitor no matter what. Okay, let's talk about this first. Because Guma gets knocked up here, and he doesn't take the Lantern because he knows, okay, I'm actually going to be able to force this back. There's no other big threat on top of me, right? But he's just back here for so long, and look at his health too. He goes back to full, but he can't threaten anybody. Now he's still with the Maokai ultimate. His team has to block for him. So there's no front line here. Keria dies to Chovy on the side here because he was just trying to wrap around, set up for another Lantern. There's no front line here at all whatsoever. And Zeus is flanking for an engage that's just never going to come because he's so separated from where his AD carry is. And the positioning from Guma, fantastic. Even though he's hit by the Malphite ultimate, it doesn't matter. He doesn't die. But he has to keep kiting back so he can't do proper damage to the enemy AD carry, who just rips through the rest of the team. And this can be a trend that continues. Doesn't matter if the Aphelios is dead if he isn't doing damage.
And speaking of trends that continue, we do have the B1 Jace currently in the lead by the most amount of gold, 2,200. Very similar to the lead that Zeus had in game number 1. This time it is Chovy on that one. He does have a 3-item power spike of his own. This time he goes for the Yomus instead of the Sereldas that we did see on the side of
Zeus. There's just no armor, on the enemy team. Really, they're starting to get some of it, but
it got like Zhonya's.
Yeah, and a cloth armor for Oner. So basically none.
For sure. So he's going to be dealing insane amounts of damage with all of that lethality stacking that he does have. Guma did go for the LDR, does not have a Bloodthirster yet, which is pretty interesting. I guess he's just saying that, we kind of had the situation actually in the game we cast in Challenger where you just don't go for it because if you get hit, even if you have Bloodthirster, you're going to die anyway. So just flash forehead and try to survive that way.
Yeah, and in that last fight, he lived because there wasn't follow-up damage, but then the Xayah killed the rest of his team, and they ended up losing the fight, right? And this is a catch-22 problem you have with Malphite compositions when you're playing very immobile AD carries. Even if you have a Thresh, as we've seen here, it's just that if you avoid all the threats, it means you've done nothing in the fight, whereas Xayah is very safe and can continue to do damage on the chase. As this is a funny exchange here. As Peanut's like, I'm not going to deal with this because there's a lantern available and there could be something on the other side of my vision that I don't want to see. Now he's like, oh, there wasn't really anything. I definitely could have stayed, but okay.
And rest is very tricky.
I think this is a still winnable game for T1, but they need to do something outside of an objective fight to win it. And that's get Doran's ultimate or force summoners out of phase. It has to be Faker who makes the play, or maybe some flank angle from Keria. Because if they just walk at each other 5v5, I think Gen G wins this every time. 10 out of 10 times, it's theirs. But if you can get that ultimate out of Doran, or get him to flash, or force him to back, and get his teleport, and set up for another fight afterwards, maybe you can win that 5v5 with your Aphelios. But without any of those things happening, even with the fed Aphelios, he just won't be able to do damage safely against this composition. There's too many threats, there's too many ways he can die.
Yeah. We even saw it in the last game where Paze was the one playing the Aphelios, that even with 4 items, it can be very difficult from a behind position if they have enough range or if they have enough hard engage. So Gen G do have those tools in their toolkit here, and so far they have been using them very well.
And they're just grouped as 5. They're like, you can push Zeus in the bot lane, we don't care. We don't care at all. T1 did very little damage to these, turrets, so they're not being threatened in the side by anybody. It's a Lissandra and a Gnar that can't, it's not a Fiora they're dealing with where they have to really stem the bleeding. And we're in a position where as long as they group as 5 and don't let T1 catch that Malphite, don't let T1 catch the carries, and take away their summoners, they should just be able to walk at these objectives and say, that's mine, it belongs to me, and there's nothing you can do about it. The trade of objectives here is all you can hope for now as T1. But Gen G can just follow you across both because they have map control here in mid. Look at all these control wards.
Players have gotten really good, by the way, at buying elixirs and stopwatches at the most critical points in the game because we're about to have Elder and Baron at the same time.
It's the Exodia fight, basically.
And Paze just went back and bought an elixir. In the past, players would actually prioritize being on the map instead. So we're going to have to stop that. We do have a fight here. Faker in a really rough spot, looking to get 100-0. Down he goes as the damage is coming in, but they're just looking for Guma on the backside as he nearly takes out Doran, though. Peanut getting torn to shreds, but there it is. They get into the backline with the Xayah, who's incredibly low. And it might just be enough as Paze with his incredibly low health bar is just going to run away and let Chovy do the cleanup here as Zeus on the run. He's just going to hop over the wall here. Doesn't want anything to do with it as Gen G considering their options.
Oh man, Paze doing so much damage, doing so much work on that fight. The positioning was so good. Chovy's not able to get the kills here. And they're going to just group now onto this Elder, but they don't have a front line here. This is very greedy. They at least have the Chemtech plant to actually get that health back. Without this, I think this is not even possible. Teleport's committed. Yeah, no smite here. And I think this is not, they can't do it. They just can't do it.
Now, they can kind of hang around and stop T1 from doing it, as T1 does not really have that much damage. And Paze is full health alongside of Chovy. Mega Gnar is here. Zeus maybe looking to be the hero.
He's got Mega, as you say. He's looking for the engage angle. He's got Flash, too. They really have to show him some respect here.
Yeah.
And Peanut's coming over. He has ultimate, but the carry's back up online. And
look at this.
Doran, he's not here. He needs to rush over here and start threatening this enemy AD carry.
Yeah, he does not have flash, but he has his unstoppable force available for the Malphite. The damage is coming in now. Guma is on this objective as here we go. Might come down to a little bit of a flip. The accelerated shock blast does miss.
And it looks like it is going to be a flip. Zeus over the wall here. Here's the Peanut ult.
Maokai ultimate a little bit early. They're trying to get position now onto this. As Faker gets in the back line and ults onto 5 people. As Meganar is in and Guma gets knocked up. He's not doing the damage, but it does not matter. And stopwatch should be enough, and the rest of the team just peels away the onion. As Doran is so low, and he can't take out Guma. And T1 just barely should be able to take this down. Oh, they don't have Smite. Jeez. As they will take it at the end of the day. That will be the shutdown for Guma as he picks up a triple, and T1 should win the game.
And just like we've seen so many times over these last few best of fives for T1, these last few seasons, I'll even say, Faker just goes in and says, this is my fight, this is my engage, and he just goes straight into the side of Gen G, and a stopwatch is all it takes for Guma to survive the counter engage. Faker makes it happen one more time here. Super clutch, very clean flash, and now Gen G just desperate to defend.
1 second on Peanut. I think they're gonna try to kite this one out. No, we have TP coming in. As the hook is there, down goes Delight. The desperation out of the side of Gen G to try to stop this from going down. But there's the ult down to Jovi, and that should be the end of him. As Doran does get in, takes out Guma, and you know what? I mean, it's only Faker and Oner here. They're gonna back away from the Nexus.
FaZe is coming back.
And they, oh man, they overstayed their welcome. They did not hit the Nexus, and Jovi effectively distracted them.
Yeah, so many of these Elder buffs gone now, and it's only 80 seconds left on it anyways. And so you're going into a Baron here, where Peanut's up in 30. If this Baron goes the way of Gen G, they'll have map control back. We'll be able to stave off a lot of this pressure. As look at Faker. He's not hit by the Peanut ultimate here. Flashes after Claw, and that's the engage angle you don't expect because you're looking at the Claw range here as Gen G, and you're like, we're out of Claw range. He can't hit us.
Oh,
and Zeus with a perfect engage. The stopwatch timing here from Guma is perfect. Just barely survives here. Such a great fight, but the positioning against the Claw from Faker was perfect, but it was about a flash away from safety, and that's where Faker finds the angle. The defense is heroic here. Peanut gets the ult off, and then they're able to buy enough time for Chobi to come through and clean up. But once Guma dies, you know this is just a done push here, and he thinks he can actually do it.
They could have just hit the Nexus.
Yeah.
Like, let Faker ult him, and then just hit the Nexus. Instead, we are still in the game, as Faker and Zeus are looking to get into the backline. Now, Peanut looks like he's got a decent idea that this is going on, as the rest of the team trying to TP back in, trying to stop the backs here, but the autos will come through. And can they take down Faker? He's not able to claw over. As Zeus, he does have some nice attack speed. Can he get those last autos in? And no, he can't! The Nexus will survive!
Oh man, he's just trying to do it. It's so low, and he cannot do it, but they will get Baron here on the back of this. And why are these T1 games getting so intense here, Valdez? If they had just grouped.
They have Baron, but it's 5v3.
Yeah,
Gen Z are going to look to try to push to end.
And if you just have Baron here, you basically backdoored to try to threaten to make sure you could get Baron, but if you had just done Baron, you could push with Baron to try to end. And now Gen G actually have a 5v3 fight where they could push.
They don't have Malphite ultimate, and they do not have Delights either.
And Malphite ult is so close, though, and they will have it once this turret is down.
That's really the question. They need that to get onto Guma, who will be the main wave clear here.
Zeus also has TP and could just TP to try to kill the Nexus, but there's no ward, actually.
That was a lot of damage. The AoE coming in. Peace nearly dies, and Gen G are like, okay, never mind. Yeah. We were just trolling.
There's no ward for Zeus to TP to, but he is going to spawn now.
It's crazy that T1 3v5 are able to push them out of here with just a couple of Aphelios autos.
Yeah. And now you have to defend this. Super minions here on both sides, so canceling each other out in the mid lane. And there's no objective up here for 2 more minutes. T1 should be able to just get control of the bottom side of the map here and rip these turrets out of Summoner's Rift, but threatening the Nexus itself is a bridge too far. Even with Baron buff, they want to be able to have 2 setup waves here, but Chobi's pushing mid out, and this means that it's going to take a lot of resources. Gen G should be able to survive this Baron. This game is wild, these T1 late games that we keep seeing.
Okay, let's see how this one goes. T1 playing it very carefully, very respectfully. They know they have Zeus in mid. And he is essentially their trap card. He's like, okay, well, if you don't answer me, I will end the game alone.
If he could get a ward off in the main base, you know, if anyone had one, they don't actually have any wards. If they could drop a ward, it would be massive. Won't be able to get this turret and back away here, so no second inhibitor going down. And this means Gen.G should actually be able to, with a strong mid push here, in a one inhib apiece, plus theirs is respawning in 45 seconds, get prio for this Elder. What a wild game. And there are, again, I mean, all the things we talked about for killing Guma, all those threats are still there, but they're arguably more potent now than they have been, because Doran is more tanky than he was. The damage here on the Xayah is much bigger than it was in the last few fights we saw. Both AD carries have GA.
Yeah, no stopwatch, though. Guma can't use that to avoid some of that damage on the backside. Like, if you respawn after your team died, it's probably not going to matter.
It won't matter.
There's too much CC on the side of Gen.G. They can just time the Rakan knock up, unless for some reason you didn't flash. And somehow you're able to make a miracle work. So this is going to get very interesting. T1 also have the angle to try to, you know, stop backs on Elder and just end the game. Never forget that angle. We've seen that too many times.
Yeah, but with the inhibitor back up, it just seems like that's going to be so difficult, and they didn't get a ward in the base. Even if they had, you know, they will have to kill an inhibitor before they can kill the Nexus.
It's also mid inhibitor, which is the easiest to defend. So, as I mentioned before in game 1, you know, Gen.G can just push up mid and say, okay. Well,
Zeus to the Snarbar, though. You got to respect it.
Okay, a little engage coming in as they get onto the backline, but that's Faker. That's not Guma. Zeus with the Meganar available, and Doran is just getting peeled apart. Faker gets in the backline and pays. He's trying to get the damage in. The feathers are on the ground, but he is too low. As can they even get onto the side? There are the feathers, and Zeus on the hook out of midair as Chovy goes down, and the damage is not there. The GA for Pace will not keep him alive, and Guma will pick up the kill at the end of the day. T1 will take game number 2.
What an incredible game here from T1, though, in so many respects. And Gen.G kept it interesting, man. They really did. But it was clutch plays from T1 back and forth here on these major objectives that end up taking it for them. I think we're going to see a split vote on POG.